Welcome to the Big Fellas Podcast, where we chop it up about all things past, present, and future about the game of basketball. Where facts, stats, and context reign supreme.
That is blasphemous!
Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. Get ready to learn from players, coaches, and fans from all levels of the game and see the court in a brand new way. And now, fresh off the sidelines, here's your host, John Hartofilis.
What it do, fellas, and welcome to the Big Fellas Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, JH, coming to you from New York City, the mecca of basketball. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Aryn McClure. Aryn grew up in Queens and attended Archbishop Molloy High School before going to Quinnipiac University and absolutely dominating the Division I women's basketball scene. Now, Aryn plays professionally overseas in Ireland, and we had a lot of fun talking about her journey falling in love with the game and the amazing experiences that the game gave back to her. We've got a good one in store for you today, fellas. Episode number 22, Aryn McClure, professional hooper. Hey, Aryn, what's going on?
Hi, John. How are you?
Great. I'm super excited to have you on. I think we're going to have a great talk, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm excited.
So just for our listeners so they can get an idea, how did you first get introduced to the game?
I originally ran track, and a lot of my, I guess you could call them track mates or teammates essentially, but track is kind of like, they played basketball as well in the same CYO program. And they were like, you should really play, like organized basketball. I'm from New York City, so I always played on my street and at the park. And I was also the only girl on my street. So I always played with the guys, and I never really played organized basketball. So I think one day I told my dad, I was like, yeah, I think I want to play basketball. And they were like, oh, well, you just can't quit one sport to go to the next. You kind of have to, be committed and see if you really do like this before you quit track. And I, enjoyed track. I was a distance runner. I ran the 400, 800, and I did cross country. But I always want to kind of be more of a team sport. Like track is more like it is a team sport as well, but you're an individual, you could be running against your same teammate in the same race. So I kind of like that basketball had more of like a team and family atmosphere. So I went to one tryout. I think I was maybe 10 or 12 in that age range. I'm pretty sure I was 10 or 12. And I loved it. I was super nervous and everything. I was I hope I don't suck because I never played organized basketball. It was always on the street. And then I actually enjoyed it, and I quit track the next day, and I was playing basketball ever since.
That's great. It's funny how at first you were really unsure about it, and then just a few years later you ended up becoming one of the best high school players in the state of New York, obviously, dominating the college level. So it's funny how it's crazy because most people would think oh, she must have been playing since she was 4 years old. She must have been the best player, the best 6U player, the best 7U player that there was at all these tournaments. But in reality, you started playing late and you just worked hard at it and got really good. So that's awesome. So then you obviously went to Molloy in high school. The one thing I thought was funny for our listeners is that you're very good friends with Ryan Kennedy, a good friend of mine and a former guest on the show. How did you end up meeting Ryan?
Like you said, I went to Archbishop Molloy High School, which was a crazy way how I ended up at Archbishop Molloy. But we always had mutual friends because everyone that I was friends with lived in Maspeth, and Ryan lives in Maspeth. So he lived around the corner from one of my best friend, Neve. And we would just always hang out every time I was on that side of town. And then we kind of reconnected this summer, and he was starting Grind City, which is one of the best training, basketball training, fitness training, whatever you want to call it, that I've worked with. People I've worked with that's just so passionate and just, have such a tenacious mindset in terms of just getting better every day, every single second of the day. And it actually helped me be able to get my body right for year 2 overseas.
That's all. We definitely can't plug Grind City Training enough on this show. Just honestly, great stuff. I've been to a bunch of them. I've participated in some workouts. I've recorded some workouts for Ryan. We've gone out to eat afterwards. And it's just, the atmosphere is fun. The kids love it. They're getting better. A lot of the kids that I saw 2-3 months ago are completely different now than when I met them. So it's just awesome seeing that. Wait, so you kind of touched on it. What was that whole story with you ending up going to Malloy?
So I started playing basketball like, 10, 12, that area. And all I like was terrible. Like I honestly wouldn't say I played my best basketball until like college. And I would say, so I was terrible. I wasn't even like one of the best in Queens in terms of that. I was always athletic, but I wasn't polished. So all the girls on my team were really good. Like they all went to either King, Mary Lewis, so I have a very talented bunch that, we grew up playing. And then AAU, a lot of them are very successful to this day. Some are pros. Everyone played at a high D1 level, mid D1 to high D1. So I was terrible. I was actually terrible growing up. I didn't have a left hand probably until I was like 14. And I forget how, no, this is how I ended up at Malloy. I ended up at Malloy because everyone else was getting recruited by Catholic high schools, especially since we played CYO for Our Lady of Lourdes, and a lot of, public schools were reaching out as well. But then everyone's like, go to Catholic school. It's better in terms of basketball-wise. And everyone was kind of going to different Catholic schools, getting recruited, essentially. So I ended up playing for the New York City Bulldogs. And Tom Catalano, who was a coach at Malloy at the time, recruited me. But I also knew Amani Tatum, who was from Queens, South Queens girl, just like me. And she's a couple years older than me. She ended up going to Malloy. So that was kind of someone I like knew of. And I was like, all right, then. And then I ended up at Malloy. My first year, I don't know why, but I just did not try out for varsity. And Tom ended up getting fired and it was like a new coach, and I just did not try out for varsity. And that was because I think I was just very nervous. Like I wasn't really confident in my capabilities coming like right into Malloy in terms of like, I could play at an elite level. So I played JV, which I actually really enjoyed, and I actually thought that was the best decision I made in high school because I was able to develop my game and not ride the bench. And actually kind of, see what I'm capable of in that kind of like short span of like my freshman year. And also I developed like lifelong friends, like my best friends, that I was, 4 years with at Archbishop Malloy. I played JV with them, and then they eventually moved up to varsity. And then my sophomore year, I moved up to varsity and I didn't play. Like I did not play a lick at all. Like I think I averaged less than 10 minutes. For this season, like I barely played. I was like ninth off the bench. And I think that was a determining factor of like, I will never ride the bench again. And kind of gave me that push into not just you can do better, but your worth. Your capabilities, just that you haven't shown it. And it's just that you haven't realized it until now. And I think that shift in my mindset, I just grinded all summer. I worked with Bruce Bishop, amazing trainer. And I just literally just worked on my game every single day. After that whole summer, I just dedicated to working on my game, basketball wise, really sharpening my basketball IQ as well. Like I watched a ton of like NBA players, WNBA players, and just studied their moves in terms of, all right, this is like, like Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players ever. And I kind of model my game after him because I'm like tall and lanky and I'm kind of like a big guard. So I kind of started, implementing like some of his moves into my game, and certain point guards, like crossovers and like handles and in terms of that. And I really had a shift in terms of my game. And out of nowhere, like it was like a turning point. Like I was able to do things I didn't even think I could do before. And that was just honestly just kind of, I think, trusting the process within myself, and not looking at the outcome. Because I really do feel like in time, even now as a pro, sometimes look at the outcome of like, all right, I want to be successful. I want this, I want that. And then you kind of lose sight of what's in the process in your journey, because maybe, what's happening now and that obstacle is like, there's a better outcome essentially than what you think that there is for you. And I think that ended up happening once I dedicated myself to like working at my craft, polishing it, and sharpening the tools that I already kind of had.
That's so awesome. And it's great that you're talking about that turning point. So I coach the freshman team at Xavier now. And a lot of the players on the team, they don't play a lot their freshman year. They get discouraged. Maybe they don't play a lot for JV. And it happens sometimes where they get to their junior, senior year, they get to varsity, and it's just like they just flip the switch and they're just a completely different player. That's kind of what happened for you. So that's awesome. So once you got to that point and you flipped that switch, what was the college recruiting process like?
Once I flipped that switch in terms of at Malloy, I got a ton of looks, especially my junior year and that year going into my junior kind of AAU season. And it was overwhelming. It can be, the recruiting process can be very overwhelming in terms of just college coaches constantly calling your phone. I remember I was used to be in class in high school, just ringing your phone, texting you. That you don't even know how they got your number. Some of these coaches, but it's all a part of their job as well. And I remember that, like, my shift in, like, just enjoying the process and not really thinking about the outcome of a lot of things. Kind of circulated with that in my process within going to a college. Like, I just at one point just kind of like took a step back, and like some coaches I would respond to, some coaches I wouldn't, because I was like, I'm also still trying to play my junior year and enjoy this process in terms of actually I'm producing now. I'm actually playing at a high level, especially since our conference was like my junior year, we really had like every team in the CHSAA can like play. Like, everyone won D1. Like, King had a team, Nas had a team, Mary Lewis was really good, Lachlan was good. So it was like on every given night, like any team can win. And it wasn't like one or two players. You had at least 3 or 4 in each team that can really produce, and everyone ended up going D1. So you kind of really had to be on your A game. And then there's also too, like, college coaches are looking at them as well. So you play Nazareth and you see all these college coaches lined up at the game. Some are there for you, some are there for them, and they kind of see you really like scoring, and not even just scoring, really like turning up during the game. And next thing you know, you have this person's kind of like offer, essentially. Now they're looking at both of you guys. So I would say that in terms of the recruiting process, I really just took a step back in terms of like, I digested what was happening in terms of like, it was all blessings. I got college offers and a lot of interest, and a lot of colleges wanted, to schedule visits, official, non-officials. And I just kind of really was just like, I'm gonna just enjoy the moment. Like, that's literally what's got me this far in terms of that shift of, enjoying the process. And I just continue to enjoy the process and not look at the outcome of where am I headed? Should I go high D1? Should I go mid D1? Until it was time to get there. I had another year, the senior year still to think about in terms of like, I won't be in college for another 2 years. So it's kind of no need to stress in that moment. And then when I commit, I'll commit. And that's really, I think, when it came to my process in terms of college recruiting, I was able to like kind of limit the stress within that.
That's awesome. And especially considering like what you just described of not playing a lot your sophomore year, being the 9th person off the bench, and then your junior year, you're getting inundated with offers, which could be a great problem to have. Also, it's very stressful though. But at the end of the day, that transformation of going from that one step to the other is awesome. So then your senior year, when you finally made the decision on where you were going to go, what did that decision boil down to?
I kind of like, eventually I had to make a decision. I couldn't just keep taking a step back. I really had to. And my mom was like, kind of like, all right, where you want to go? Like, you really need to call these college coaches back. You actually need to be more aggressive within executing where you kind of want to go. So I kind of made a list. I was like, these are my top 5. Pretty sure it was like Ole Miss, LaSalle, Quinnipiac, Drexel, and Hofstra. And Hofstra was close to home, essentially. And I liked Ole Miss a lot. But it was just, the South. I used to go down south all the time with my grandpa. He's from Alabama. Go Roll Tide, diehard Alabama fan and Cowboys fan. And I just, for me, as a New Yorker, the South wasn't it for me. It was just too hot. It wasn't like the fast pace that I kind of like. So I was just like, that's off the board. And then I had LaSalle, which I actually really liked. I went on a visit there in Quinnipiac and Drexel. So those were my top three in terms of like, all right, I like these schools. They kind of fit my game. I really built a good relationship with the coaches that recruited me. Drexel came to one of my high school practices just for a practice, came all the way down just to see me practice. And then, so I really, with the LaSalle, they came to Malloy actually too as well. And Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac came to one of the games that I played against St. Mary's, but LaSalle actually came to Malloy. I mean, not Quinnipiac, came to Malloy. And I don't know, I built the relationship with each coach. So I kind of felt bad once I had to make that decision, like, hey, I'm not going. I decided to pick this school. And then I went to LaSalle's campus, and it was in Philly, which I really liked because it was different than New York, but it wasn't as, like, the amenities wasn't there. Like, the facilities were kind of run down-ish a little bit. But it was a really good team. I knew a lot of New Yorkers who went there and played. So I wasn't, like, dialed them out. And then I think really my top two, I took two officials, though. And it was Quinnipiac and Drexel. I went to Drexel first. I loved every single thing about Drexel. I loved that it was right in the city, is walking distance. Kind of reminds me of NYU a little bit. I loved everything about it. And I think, I was, after my official, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to commit here. And then I'm talking to the coach, she's like, are you going to commit? And I was just like, something in my gut was like, I need to go to Quinnipiac. I can't just make a decision off of, one official. I need to go to Quinnipiac. So then I ended up taking an official to Quinnipiac. And instantly, like, I fell in love with the campus. And Danielle Wexler, who recruited me, the first thing I did, and I remember this to this day, like, as soon as I got out the car, like, I gave her a hug, and we hugged or whatever. And she was the one who was always in constant like, communication with me and recruiting. And it was like an instant, like, all right, this is family. And, with any family, you're going to have adversity, and stuff like that. But it was always, like, love. And I felt like as soon as I came and I took my official, I loved the team. It was, like, a great official visit. And I think that really sold me. I'm like, all right, I'm going to Quinnipiac for 4 years. I can see myself here. This would be, a good place where not only I can, like, produce basketball-wise, but actually grow as a person. So then I ended up committing to Quinnipiac.
Oh, that's awesome, especially considering how a lot of the people listening to this podcast are younger players who are going to be dealing with decisions. Either they're dealing with them right now or they're going to be. And it's stressful. I mean, you're describing it. And, like, imagine being in that room with a coach that's offering you everything you want, but you're in the back of your head, you're like, do I want to take this? And then you're wrestling with that. And then how do you like get, because some people would freeze up. Some people would freeze up and be like, okay, I'll come here. And they'll just blurt it out and they'll just, that's it. And now listening to this, they're like, oh, let me think about the situation before I get in. Let me try to visualize what that's going to be like. So then once you got to Quinnipiac, were you kind of scared at first that it'd be kind of a repeat of your freshman year, because it was anything but that? You won Rookie of the Year and dominated right away. Were you? But at the start though, were you kind of worried a little bit, or did you think it was going to be okay?
When I came into Quinnipiac, my mindset, like, so you have to go in the summertime during the time that you're before you officially start the season. Like, freshmen come in the summer. Everyone usually goes in the summertime. So I came summer 2, it was 6 weeks. And I remember I was so nervous in terms of, college style lifting. And also in terms of just practice, you're playing against grown women. You're 17, 18 years old. You're playing against 22, 23-year-olds. Like, you're skinny. I'm skin and bones in their 4 years of, powerlifting and everything. But I think my mentality going into Quinnipiac was just like, I'm going to just work as hard as I can. And, like, I didn't go in within the expectations of I'm going to play. I didn't go in with the expectations like I'm going to dominate for these 4 years. I just went in with like the mindset that I'm just going to work, not just work hard, but execute in terms of my abilities every single day. Because everyone always says, they work hard, oh, I work hard, I go to practice, but you're working hard against 12 girls who work just as hard as you. Some may even work harder, some may even go the extra mile. Some may even be able to do more, but it's all about how much you can execute within your capabilities. And I think that separates the great, good, and average players in terms of college. Somebody can have, and I know people on my team who had so much talent, and they had great careers and amazing careers, but it is up to the point of how consistent can you be and how disciplined can you be within those 4 years of doing it. You can have one good year, and it goes into my freshman year. Like my freshman year coming in, I kind of had the mentality, I'm just going to work hard and I'm going to execute in terms of, everything I do. I want to not even prove to myself, honestly, that I can be here and I have the capabilities to stand and be on this team and help out. And I think that, I did get Rookie of the Year, but it wasn't, I really didn't even think about, because honestly, the Rookie of the Year thing, me and my teammate Paula, she was in my class, she's a Latvian girl. Both of us worked so hard, right? And we both dominated my rookie. It could have went to either of us. And I don't know how it came to me. It could have went to her. If she got it, it could have went to me. It was literally like head and head. They would call us the Towers. But it was honestly like a blessing that I got it and received it. Honestly, I wouldn't have gotten it without my teammates and my coaching staff. But in terms of, coming in, I didn't even start right away. People think I came in dominating. Like, I remember my first game, I think I had like 6 points. And, my coach kind of looked at me and was like, you're going to have to actually turn up and stop playing scared. Like a straight, like grown woman to woman, like kind of conversation. Like, you're a woman now. This isn't, oh, I don't know. You can't be wary in these situations. Like, this is game time. You need to produce because you have the capabilities to produce. And eventually, like, I wasn't starting, and we did the 5 in, 5 out. We did like 10 deep. We used to go 12 deep at one point. And I remember my freshman year, it was one day, like, I was just, you were one of those days in the locker room saying, you're like, I'm producing and I'm doing all this and I'm not starting, but you see other freshmen starting. And you have two options at that point. A lot of people just like, oh, that's not fair. Play the blame game. I know I'm better than this person. Why are they starting over me? And for me, I just realized it was just like, it's the process. It's the process. Like, you don't know what these coaches are thinking. They're probably like, yeah, we want to start you, but maybe, you're a best fit coming off the bench to give that energy, or maybe we're still trying to figure out who you gel with and who can make you better and who you can make better. So I just kind of just kept working hard, and eventually, like, they're like, it makes sense. They're like, Aryn, you could start. Like, you're in the starting lineup. And I was like, oh, okay. And then after that, like, I always, like, consistently, like, started after that. And it's not even just starting. It's just more of the fact of I had consistent minutes, which gave me the opportunity to kind of give more and actually, like, help the team more, essentially. And that's all I really wanted, just more opportunities to help us win.
No, that's awesome. And that kind of look into your mindset during that time of, obviously, you're scared going in, you conquer that. You're not playing a lot at the beginning, so you have these thoughts, but then you end up saying, well, it's all part of the process. And that's something I mean, it's super important for younger players, especially, that kind of get caught up in, oh, I'm entitled to start, or I deserve this. It's about holding yourself accountable and say, okay, what can I do to get that? And some people expect it right away, or just expect it because that's what they've always had. In middle school, you always were the best player, so you expect to do that in high school. Or same thing, let's say, because you were such a great player in high school, if you went into Quinnipiac saying, oh, just give me the ball, like, like that kind of mindset of just, I'm the best just because I've done that. No, sometimes it takes a while, and you did that, which is awesome. So obviously, you guys had the Towers. You guys had some really good players in Quinnipiac, and you guys won a lot of games over those 4 years. What was the most memorable moment for you, whether it's clinching the conference or something like that?
Most of the time, everyone always goes, "Oh, we went to the Sweet 16 like my sophomore year," and which was amazing. Like we really, proved not a lot of people wrong, but just ourselves. We lost my freshman year in the championship, and I think ever since then, like we went into the mentality of like, like we're not gonna lose. Like we're a winning culture. We're gonna keep being a winning culture, and also like why lose when you can win. And I think that mentality of all of us, and even from like the training staff and to us players and to the coaches, like we all had that mentality of like we're gonna always put our best foot forward even when it's not even our best foot. And in its time, it's like if, my coach always used to say, Coach Faber, if there's a will, there's a way. You got to figure it out. And I think most of the times with most teams and just there's always adversity, especially that, you're a family, there's always going to be inconsistency within relationships. There's always going to be, self-doubt. There's always going to be some sort of kind of internal adversity. And it's up to, honestly, your team to be like, there's a bigger agenda ahead, which is not only essentially just winning. It's just more of that, not settling. And I think that is the mentality of this Quinnipiac, like why settle for average? Why settle for, just this when you can be so great, and even times where like we would have goals as a team and we're killing teams by 20 and we didn't hit our goals of, getting offensive rebounds as a team or getting out rebounded or, we turned the ball over too much. Meanwhile, we won by 20 still, like that's not our standard. So I think in terms of our winning culture, we just had a standard within us. And I think too, the root of any successful team is not only like the frontline players, but it's those players that are coming off the bench that want it just as bad as the starters, who aren't complacent with, oh, I'm just not playing. I'm only getting 5 minutes here. So I'm like, all right, I see them producing. I want to contribute to this winning culture. And I think for us, we were blessed to have our strength coach, who's Coach B. We call him Coach B. In the weight room, essentially, getting our minds right before practice. And he was really good within that, and meditation, and also just like his favorite saying, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And, expanding your comfort zone of I'm not playing, I'm not getting the ball. And, we all go kind of essentially get into a fault with that of, I'm not getting touches, I'm not getting looks. And, even myself, like at times you do. And then you kind of got to like stray away from that, because it's kind of like, there's a positive outlook on every situation. It's kind of like, all right, maybe this is not your game to eat, this is someone else's game to eat. And you just kind of have to take the back seat of that. And that's what being a good teammate is. And that's what, being a part of a winning culture is, in terms of you may not always have to be that one to produce offensively, or, maybe this game defensively. And then maybe this person who hasn't played all season comes out with a breakthrough game and clutch for the team when, all 5 starters is just dry. So, just having people that, stayed ready, especially like the younger girls who came in as freshmen at the time where I was like a junior, senior, and, you come in with the team already set in terms of, they already got like 9 players that's already going to play, and you're a class that comes in that's not probably going to play. And it's still having that mentality of waving the towel, and just being like, all right, eventually my time is coming. I'm still going to get up extra shots in the gym. I'm still going to learn. I'm still going to watch film. I still want to contribute and feel like I'm contributing to the success, because it's easy to, and like the Lakers just won, and that's a perfect team kind of that is and a prime example of like a deep bench of players of so much talent, where a lot of people didn't even get the opportunity to kind of showcase their talent. But in terms of still contributing to the winning success of the team, they did that. And was Quinnipiac, that still is Quinnipiac. And I think that's what has made, such a legendary legacy for Quinnipiac women's basketball.
Wow, that's just an awesome description of just the culture. And I know your coach, if your coach gets a chance to listen to this, she'll be very happy. For sure, one of her players got it. It's like one of her players understands the whole meaning behind the culture that put it in place. And it's something I'm obviously going to have my freshmen listen to, because it's great, really, that understanding of sometimes it's someone else's time to eat. You can contribute to the team in ways outside of scoring the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lakers, like you're saying, I mean, when they that second quarter, when they absolutely blew Miami out of the building, the thing I kept on looking at, obviously they were out in transition, scoring all the time. The bench, I mean, it might have helped that there were no fans in the arena. Dwight Howard's jumping up and down like he's 5 years old. Like everyone's going. J.R. Smith's about getting ready to take his shirt off at the end of the game. Like everyone was so excited. The other team sees that. They're like the momentum shifts. Your teammates see that. They're playing at a higher level. One more thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to everything, all the awesome stuff you're doing in the pros, is you were a Victory Scholar recipient. So you did it both on the court and off of it. What was the importance of that at Quinnipiac? And then also, how did you execute that?
So the Victory Scholar Sports Trainers Life is an amazing program. I did it last year. You basically get your master's for free, which is an amazing thing. You continue to, you become a pro, so you play professional basketball. And then you also raise the aspirations of the children of Ireland through the vehicle of sport, which is like an amazing program. It essentially brings the two of the, like, kind of like, you're bringing Americans over to kind of provide perspective, and also just guide these young children who don't have the resources, in terms of especially basketball. It's like a minority sport in Ireland, because Gaelic football is the top sport, and then I think it's rugby, and it's like it goes down the list. But I was accepted out of, I don't even know how many applied. They said about like at least 400 applied. So I was one of 22 scholars accepted. And it's just an amazing program. I met lifelong friends. Everyone, especially the girls were D1 or high D2, came from like elite level programs, and was just, looking for opportunities after basketball that wasn't just essentially just basketball. And I think that it's an amazing program that takes American athletes and gives them the opportunities that they may not have essentially had in America, in terms of not just the pro aspect, but just like getting a master's degree for free post basketball. And I think too, it's refreshing, living in another country. It's like the most uncomfortable setting that I think you can ever be in, is living in another country by yourself. And I kind of fell in love with that discomfort, in terms of it has broadened my like perception of the world. And I also have, been embedded in so many different cultures, especially since my location that I'm in is very diverse. My best friend that I met out here, she's Taiwanese, and she's teaching me something new every day. And I teach her, American culture that, you see beyond just TV and also on your phone. So I think in terms of the program, it really is an amazing program that truly kind of bridges both sides of Irish basketball in terms of their youth as well, and American athletes, into kind of giving both essentially two supporting systems, to kind of bridge those cultures together and gain a better perception and a bigger perception of it all.
Well, that is so cool. So right now you're in Ireland. Is it still for that, or did you kind of like transition into a different thing with a pro team?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I graduated from my master's. I'm actually graduating in November. I passed and everything. I'm no longer a part of Sports Trainers Life, because I was a part of their last year class. So they have a new class that's in right now. But now I'm a second year pro. So I'm on a pro contract with the team that I played for last year. They reached out before I left, was like, if you ever wanted to come back and sign officially another pro contract exclusively with us, we would definitely be for it. And I was kind of weary, especially during quarantine. I was like, do I want to go back and play another season? And I eventually did. And I was just like, you know what? Quarantine was, quarantine really broadened my perception in terms of just keep taking those risks. Keep taking the decisions and making the decisions that are so uncomfortable. And, and that was like the initial thing with Sports Changes Life. I think a lot of us scholars, victory scholars, who took that transition to go overseas and do the program. Like, I remember in Belfast for 10 days for orientation, we were all just talking about like how scared we were. Our families were so worried. And we all just kind of took that gut feeling and went with the decision that scared us the most. And it turned out to be the best decision that we've all made, because now we have a master's degree. Now we have seen different parts of the world. Now we've, served as athletes, other athletes in terms of the community service aspect. And also, like, you grow when you're in a different environment other than one you grew up with, or other than an environment where you're comfortable with. You're forced to kind of grow into who you are and find different aspects in your life that you kind of even just essentially want to be. And I think this opportunity and coming back for year 2 is continuing to help me be in the direction of where I want to be in life, but also helping me grow within myself.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. So, I mean, obviously playing over there and being a part of that culture is just amazing. What is the whole COVID protocol looking like in terms of your pro season?
So right now Ireland was in level 1, and cases have like risen. So it's now in level 3. But essentially, even in level 1, we wouldn't have fans. Everything is live streamed. And in terms of like Corona, I wouldn't have to get, I don't think, Corona tested, only if someone on my team tested positive. And my team has been really good in terms of social distancing, taking the right protocols. But we do have like temperature. We get our temperature taken before every practice. You have an app you have to fill out with information of like your symptoms every day. And yeah, so I think I think the season will still go on only if it hits level 5, which I don't think like the entire government will ever go into level 5. Just because I think like right now any country isn't economically stable enough to go back into another level 5. So I think a lot of countries are gonna not even try to hit that and take as many precautions before it gets to that severity.
Yeah. Of course. It's funny because I just remember when New York was in stage 4, that was like the height of it. So I don't want to know what stage 5 level, whatever that is. I don't want to know what that is. It's definitely really bad, because stage 4 here was everything was terrible. So whatever 5 is, please, hopefully that doesn't happen. No, I mean, Aryn, everything you're doing is just so awesome. I mean, playing over there, what you've done over here in the States, and then taking that over there to show to the youth in Ireland, that's just so awesome. And I really want to thank you for coming on the show, because I think that whoever listens to this is going to learn so much about not just your journey, but how they can kind of apply those lessons into what they're about to embark on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for having me. Tell Ryan I said hi. But yes, definitely. I would love anyone who's like watching this or listening to this to kind of take away those gems, especially within, your comfort zone, and keep expanding in that, and not searching more for essentially, the outcome of everything, in terms of just enjoying and trusting the process, because you never know what you're made of in that process. And yeah, keep believing in yourself. I think that's the number one thing with most athletes, especially younger athletes, doubting their own capabilities. And, I was listening to this like video today, and one thing that they said was the way you view yourselves determines your success and failures. So if you view yourself as not even like the best in whatever city you're from, or the best position at your college, but if you view yourself as the best that you can be, and essentially that you can be better, then you're gonna be better. If you view yourself as, I like this, I like that, fix that, kind of polish that, build towards how you can, strengthen your weaknesses. And when you're able to do that and have that consistent, hungry mindset of just continuing to work on yourself and your game and who you are, then, you're going to be so unstoppable. Like, and not even just in terms of basketball wise, just like successful wise in the world. Like, no one can ever stop someone that's always willing to keep going. And yeah, that's what I'm going to leave off with.
Be unstoppable. Thanks, Aryn.
All right. Bye, John.
Thanks for listening to the Big Fellas Podcast. Check us out on all major social media platforms at Big Fellas Pod to join the chop up. You can also listen to us on every podcast platform on the planet. Stay tuned for the next episode, Big Fellas.